and welcome. I think this is the first time we've ever heard spontaneous applause for our speaker, and I feel the same way. So I'm delighted that you're all here. I'm going to ask a favor of you now. If you have not yet turned off your cell phones or any other devices that might make unwanted noise, please do so now, because we don't want that happening without intention. So, my name is Patsy Hicks, and I'm Director of Education here at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art. And I normally stand up here and give a very carefully crafted, well thought out introduction. But today, I asked somebody else to do that, which I'll talk about in a minute. So what I want to say this morning or this afternoon is thank you. I want to say thank you, first of all, to each of you. And I want to ask you, if you are a student anywhere studying anything, raise your hand. It's so great, yes, for you being here. And in a way, this is a full-on academic embrace, because the other person I want to thank is a professor at University of California, Riverside, an amazing writer in his own right, if I can say that, and an amazing teacher and an even better friend. And as you'll see shortly on our stage, a really well-considered interviewer who can draw out the most amazing stories from both friends and strangers. And happily today, Andrew Weiner will be on stage with his dear friend, Juan Felipe Herrera. So thank you, Andrew, for introducing us and being here today. And I want to give a special shout out to those teachers, Westmont City College, UCSB, and in particular, the unduplicatable sister of my soul, Melinda Gondara, who has changed more lives in this room, I think, than anyone except possibly Juan Felipe. Melinda, thank you. How many of you are students of Melinda's or have been? Yeah, so yay for that. I thank you. Melinda is a powerful advocate for finding voice and taking your place wherever you find yourself and feeling that you can use that voice. And so this morning, one of her students, Jeanette Espinosa, who is an intern here, who is perhaps in her heart of hearts a scientist, but has somehow found the way to embrace the humanities as well, and more than that, to embrace service, being a volunteer, helping others feel comfortable, helping others find their voice. So she's going to add her voice to ours this morning and introduce Juan Felipe Herrera. So please warmly welcome Jeanette Espinosa.
Thank you. That was a lot more beautiful than I expected. All right. So, before you go further, let me tell you what a poem brings. The son of migrant farm workers, bouncing from tent to trailer for much of his youth, Juan Felipe Herrera worked his way to UCLA, earning his bachelor's, followed by a master's at Stanford, and then a master's in creative writing from the University of Iowa. Understanding the importance of education, Herrera gives back to communities. He served as the chair of the Chicano and Latin American Studies Department at CSU Chico and taught at UC Riverside. He is an activist for migrant and indigenous communities and at-risk youth. His contributions extend from San Diego to Arcata and throughout California's valleys. Notably, in 2015, Herrera was the first Latino to be appointed by the Library of Congress as Poet Laureate. Influenced by the respected beat writer Allen Ginsberg and renowned playwright Luis Valdez, inspired by a trek from the rainforests of Chiapas to the mountains of Nayarit, Mexico, and guided by his mother, who would spontaneously recite poems when the moment moved her. Herrera uses various artistic mediums to illustrate culture, question identity, and position social politics into his works. He is prolific, to say the least. Grounded, fueled, and individualistic, Herrera brings us with him. Before you go further, let me tell you what a poem brings. There is no poem to speak of. It is a way to attain a life without boundaries. And without any more introduction, Juan Felipe Herrera.
Very nice. Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you very much.
All right. Can you hear us up there?
Yes.
All right. What a privilege it is. It's so funny. We've been spending the last 2 days together, right? So this is just more of the conversation.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot.
We've been talking a lot.
It's been good.
It's been good.
It's been really good.
Juan Felipe, I probably have told you already, but when you came to Riverside, I was a young professor there, just starting out, and you came, I think, my second year there, and kind of changed the whole deal for me. And I'm going to start crying, but I think you've taught me so much, and we're always joking around and riffing and doing stuff, but you've meant a great deal to me, and it's a real privilege to be on this stage with you today.
I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you again. Because I left 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I went back to Fresno, where I have my family. And I loved UCR, and I loved our conversations.
Yeah.
But it was time to go back. And then I went back, and then I missed Riverside. So I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, because everything had changed when I got back to Fresno. It wasn't the Fresno that I left.
Yeah.
The Fresno I had in my mind was a different Fresno than the one in reality.
Yeah. Can I just tell a story? So I was chair of the department when for your last number of years there.
Yes.
And you came to me one day to tell me that you wanted to leave.
That's right.
But your way of doing it was, you said, Andres, it's time for me to mosey on down the road with my sack over my shoulder.
I still have that sack over my shoulder.
I think you said, I'm going up Frisco way. Or, you had some going back to Frisco.
Going back to Frisco, I got my corn cob back there.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. And I just have to say, no other faculty member has ever spoken, never talked to me that way. It's just such a...
I'll see you later. I'm gonna jump on that train right now.
Just being your chair was its own kind of thing. I mean, it was very different than any other faculty member, unsurprisingly.
Yes.
But
so I missed our conversations about your painting and your art and just a natural friendship.
We used to run into each other in the hallway, and suddenly we'd have a 3-hour talk about paintings.
Paintings, yeah.
1904, what's going on in painting?
1904, that's right.
Right.
Picasso's blue period.
Yeah.
And the photographs.
Yeah.
At that time of his little workshop.
Right.
Yes, all that. And we always get into
the thing about you that's different than so many writers I know is that you look at everything. Art is as much important to you as anything else, right?
Well, it kind of happened in high school, and I think it happened also by always being on the move as a child with my parents, as a migrant farm worker family.
Yeah.
And so it was just great, You look at the sky, you look at the earth. You're always moving. You look out the window and you see, fields going by. You see cities going by, little tiny towns that you rarely see, and railroads and power lines, and all that's very moving.
Did you ever imagine when you're passing towns, like what would it be like to live there,
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
It was a good feeling.
Yeah.
It was a good feeling. Those open fields, the colors of the land. The little mountains and the little gorges that led to somewhere that you have no idea where.
And where was that? Where were you initially? Where were your parents working?
Well, I was born in Fowler, which is a few miles south of Fresno.
South of Fresno, yeah.
And every time I passed 99 when I was bopping to San Francisco as a San Francisco bopper.
with hair down to here, right?
Yeah, with hair down to here. Yeah, we're down here. I used to have to wrap it up, put it in my bag. So I passed by Fowler, and I would see oh yeah, there's Fowler. We never stayed in Fowler. which is a place to be born. You know, it's a born place. It's time to get born, Juan Felipe. Let's go. We're gonna get born. Stephen Fowler, and then many years later, like in 2010, I discovered my sisters in Mesquite, New Mexico, south of Las Cruces, and then they told me the story of Fowler. I didn't have that story.
What was the story?
The story of Fowler, that they had been going there all the time in the 40s and 50s to do farm working in Fowler.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. I thought it was just Fowler, you know, as a born place. Time to get born. But it was actually a familiar place for my family, and particularly my father.
Yeah. Can I just ask while we're on it, how come you didn't know your sisters before, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that big old family.
Is it okay if you tell how that happened? Like how you discovered?
Yeah, you know, it's just a whole series of feelings, you know, a whole series of episodes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the second family child. And then my father's first family was in the early 1900s. He was born in 1882. So by 1910, my father then 1910, my father got married and had a family, and they started, you know, multiplying. So, but by the time I was born in the late 40s, then that family already had sprouted all the way out.
So your father was quite old by the time he.
Yeah, he was 66 when I was born.
When you were born, yeah.
66 when I was born.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like a 3-century guy. I'm a 3-century guy. No wonder I write so many poems.
You've been around a long time.
3 centuries old now. So then I had my father's stories and his way of life and his, you know, his values from that time, you know. And that was a very open time when you really, really for sure could jump on a train and get on that train and, you know, hang off the train and jump off in Denver. I mean, was nothing. That train went right through whatever was there. With a wall, a little straw, it went right through that straw and you made it to Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
And then he jumped off at 14. 14 years old, it's time to hit the world. He jumped off, it was the winter. He said, Juan Felipe, it was so cold when I jumped that train. So cold that when I spit, it turned into little tiny blocks of ice, Juan. That's what he used to tell me. And you know, different, you know, style. And so imagine that, being 14 and jumping off the train.
Where was he? Where did he come from?
He came from a little non-existent village now, and you can't find it on Google Maps. It's really non-existent. El Mulato.
El Mulato.
El Mulato.
Yeah.
And it was right on the little border with Texas, by Ojinaga, and whatever's across Ojinaga on the U.S. side.
Yeah.
And then train from there, go straight up to Denver, and then you jump off on Denver. So in Denver, Colorado, and then he jumped off, and then you hit Denver in the late 1800s. So imagine Denver in the late 1800s. So that was that Denver, and it was really freezing cold, and there's cattle, and there's little ranches, and there's cowboys, and, you know, chewing tobacco, and, you know, rolling cigarettes, and then you get out there as a 14-year-old. You get on out there, you go, bueno, vine aquí para buscar un trabajito, a ver si tiene usted un trabajito, que llego del mulato. And he got himself a little job. And that's how he began.
Yeah.
So that's my dad, the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Isn't it weird how all that happens before Fowler, right?
All that happened before Fowler. And by the 40s then, my sisters were working in Fowler, picking grapes and just living there.
So they were his first family.
First family, right. First family. Yeah. And so I told my sister when I met up with her, Sara, in Mesquite, New Mexico, south of Las Cruces, around 8 minutes south of Las Cruces. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm your half brother, you know. So no. That doesn't work that way here, Juan. He says we're the same blood. I said, all right, I'm in. I was in. And so then she kind of introduced me to everybody. She opened that big golden door. Wow. That big golden door of secrets and anticipations. And
how did that affect you emotionally?
It was big. It was big because I had, you know, when you have that kind of experience, you have a lot of anger. You start boiling anger because you go, man, that family, you know. I remember my father wrapping little presents for Tony and wrapping little presents for Sarah and wrapping little presents for, the children. I go, hey, Papa, what about me? You get that feeling. But it's not a big feeling when you're a child. It's not a big feeling. It's just, you're curious. I'm just curious. Oh, that's for Concha. Oh, and that's for Sarah. Oh. And then my father would bring me T-shirts, and I got a Daniel Boone knife, really nice jackknife that he brought back. And he bring me back little piñon bags wrapped up really nice in little piñon bag sacks. So I get piñones and T-shirts and a little jackknife and stories about who he had seen, and it was all natural because my mother didn't. It didn't bother my mother, and if it didn't bother my mother, it wasn't going to bother me because I was never going to see her bothered. And it didn't bother him because he was a traveling man, so it didn't bother me. So I wasn't bothered. But as I grew up, I started wondering about them,
Yeah.
And
did it feel like a piece of you?
So then it became a little difficult. Yeah.
I was just going to ask if it felt like something in all your adult life. Did it feel like something was a hole in your life in a way?
It felt like a hot coal.
A hot coal.
Like a hot coal.
A hot coal. So there was anger there. Yeah.
There was a little anger in the hot coal.
Yeah.
A little volcanic anger, and a little tiny hot coal, and it was
And did that kind of when she opened the golden door,
She opened Sarita opened the golden door.
Did that?
And she pushed everybody away. Okay, this is your brother. Okay, that's it. Any other little arguments there? You didn't have to come see me. Okay, Sarah. Okay, okay, no problem. We love him. So she opened the door, and it was amazing. You have another reality. We have many realities, and some of them are locked or closed out. We can't really get to them. And this one finally opened up. What was that feeling? So all of a sudden you have brothers and sisters. I only had him for a few days. Like my brother David. I saw him at that meeting, and we had a great dinner and a get-together. And then my brother-in-law had cancer in El Paso. So then I would go visit him, getting chemo. So I lay back and we watched TV. He was getting chemo. And I got a call from Belinda, one of his daughters, David Herrera, one of his daughters. Oh, you got to come up here fast. You got to come here fast because my dad wants to talk to you. I mean, really fast. He really wants to talk to you. And I kind of took my time. So I got there later during the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I got to see him. He never mentioned anything. Not a word. I said he was urgent about something, but not a word. And then I had to go. I had to leave.
Yeah.
Come back some other time. And all he said was, Juanito. That's all he said. And then went back to El Paso, saw my brother-in-law, came back to Fresno, and my brother died 5 days later. Same brother, he died 5 days later. So I got to see him.
For a few days.
For a few days.
Yeah.
And then Sarah, and that was a big shock.
Yeah.
Got to see him at the right time, in a sense.
Yeah.
I got to see him at the right time.
Yeah.
But I never found out what he wanted to tell me.
Yeah.
But now that I'm saying this, I think that's what he wanted to tell me. Isn't that interesting? Now that I'm saying this right now, I just figured it out.
Yeah.
That this is what he wanted to tell me. He wanted to tell me that it was going to be just that moment. That's what he wanted to tell me. And that was good. That was good enough. Because we can't, reverse time. So that was good enough.
Beautiful.
Even though I felt at the moment that I was just starting to meet him. But that was good enough.
There's a lot in that that is Juanito. I mean, there's a lot in there, right?
It was Juanito.
I mean, it's a poem, and it's a poem, right?
Yeah, I hadn't seen him since 1964.
Oh.
He would come to visit my father.
Yeah,
and I was just sitting on the side of just sitting like this. Yeah. He'd visit my dad, and they'd have a conversation.
And can we talk? Because yesterday you told me something about your mom that really I love.
That's just a whole other story.
And she was kind of, but your mom was calm, right?
She was very calm, very calm, very patient, very calm, very kind.
Yeah.
One time she would take the 14th and Mission Street bus to Daly City because she wanted to go out. She'd go to the end of the Daly City, drive, and then she'd get back on the bus and come back to the mission, and that was going out.
That was a night out on the
That
town.
was a night out. Went to see the city,
Yeah.
and we always did it like that. We were on Greyhounds a lot
Yeah.
and trains a lot as a child also.
Were you alone with her in the mission?
I was
With your mom?
alone with her. Yeah, definitely, because my father had gone traveling,
Uh-huh.
And
He
he
was
would
a traveling man.
and then he wouldn't say when he was going to come back.
Right.
And so he said he'd come back in a few months, a few weeks, a year.
Yeah.
So, and my mom, she was kind of quick. She goes, okay, that's the story. Then we're going to San Francisco. Because I had cousins in San Francisco. So I went to school in San Francisco. This is one of them, Patrick Henry back here. And I went to Bryant Elementary. I went to one right there on 16th and Mission. And then we got bused to Patrick Henry. At Marshall Elementary, then I went to Patrick Henry. No matter where I went, we kept on moving. I don't know why. Everything moved. Wherever I went, oh, well, we're going to Marshall Elementary now. Go to Marshall. Oh, we're going to bus you to Patrick Henry. I said, wait a minute, I just got to Marshall. So we got bused to this store, to this place.
Yeah.
But my mother was very calm and very kind.
But you told me something yesterday. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No.
Because you looked out one day and she had a chicken. You
She had a
remember?
chicken?
She had a chicken.
She had a chicken.
And it shocked you what she was doing to that chicken.
Oh, this goes further back in time.
Yeah.
When we lived in Vista, California.
Vista, yeah.
Yeah, because we were basically all over California. So we were in Vista, California, next to San Marcos, next to Escondido, Vista, California. You all know what
It's
that
a
is.
big place now. It's really grown.
It was just a little ranch.
Yeah.
Just a little ranch, no city, just a Vista. You look at it, Vista, that's it. That's it. Just a dry piece of land. Vista, there it is. It's over. It's that one Vista. So we worked for she worked for Mrs. Garcia, who owned the little ranch in Vista, California. And then we moved to Escondido, actually. Let's go to Escondido. Okay, she fed the chickens there in Vista. And she was very happy there. She massaged the women because they were hurting. And she had her own ways of healing women. And so she massaged them with olive oil. And they had pain in their belly. So she would take care of the women and that little tiny...
She was a healer.
She was a healer.
She was a healer.
Little tiny community. And then we moved to Escondido. And she would speak something like this, "Ay, Juanito, make sure you go to school, okay? And when you get to the class, make sure you listen to your teachers, okay? Because they're doing the best they can. And, okay, you go to the class now and, do what you can. And, be a good boy. And, don't get any fights. So, okay, Mama, good." So that was her typical style. And then I came home one day, and she was going, and she had found it. We had chickens in the backyard. It was like Safeway, but without Safeway. So I found her. I said, "What's all that noise in the back?" I opened the back door of that little apartment. She was going. She was twirling the chicken head, and she got the chicken flying around her hand. She go, "Ooh." It hit the wall. She picked it up and said, "Okay, we're going to eat tonight." So she had that other side.
She had another side to her.
She was an earthy person. She's an earthy person too.
Yeah.
One time on that Mission Street bus, a young guy stole her watch, like a middle schooler or something. Just ripped the watch off her and took off. And she goes, Juanito. I said, "Where's your watch, Mom?" "Oh, a boy stole it. He probably needed it more than me." And that was my mom. That was my mom. Yeah. Very, very. I said, "What did you do with that gold ring that you had? You had a little gold ring that, my father gave you a long time ago." "Oh, it's working." "What do you mean it's working?" "Yes, in the pawn shop." It's at work. I put it to work. I put my ring to work. It's out there working, And it's working for $20, Juan. And then at the end of the month, you go to the pawn shop and pay the ring back, and you get a ring back.
Did you listen? So can we look at these for a second? Can we look at some of these? Did you obey her when she told you to be a good boy?
Yeah, look at me. I'm the most obedient boy in here. If you can spot that guy, the most obedient
Can you
one.
tell where he is?
I even had a watch on. Not first row. These are the tough dudes over here. These are the toughest dudes right here.
Second
next to Alfredo Bautista? Yeah, that's me. Alfredo Bautista is wearing the plaid shirt. That's Alfredo Bautista. Yeah. So that's me, being my proper self, and ironed out shirt and everything, short sleeve.
Did any of these other kids try to beat you up or anything?
James Riesgo over there. It looks like he wants to get into something. That's James Riesgo. So we would throw these blind punches. We don't want to see it. You go, and maybe we'd hit each other. Maybe we'd miss. Very emotional situation. And there's Rudy over there, handsome Rudy, on the right. With his arms like this.
Good-looking kid.
Mr. Cool, Rudy Maldonado. Yeah. Here's his girlfriend right there, Sylvia, with a striped skirt, looking kind of cool. And there's proper Nancy over there with her white socks. And the meanest girl in the class was Dolores Garcia, right next to her.
Right here.
Don't mess with Dolores Garcia. Look at her. She was a toughie. And tall Moses was a happy dude. But you wouldn't want to mess with him either, because he was like twice your size. And big Yolanda, she was almost as big as Moses right there. And Honolulu Naipo, which I liked a lot, but she ran too fast.
What about your teacher?
Oh, Mr. Hayden, he is a cool dude. He was an ex-Army sergeant. So whenever anybody wanted to fight, he'd tell them, go fight right there in the back of the room. So they'd be slugging it out. He was like, remember, students, miles per hour, MP, H, okay? And we're going to study Peru. Now open your book, your papers on Peru. And then they come out and go, okay, Mr. Hayden, we're done. Okay, my nose. Okay, you got a little napkin or something? So they come out of their little, battle back there, and they'd sit down, and they had worked it all out. No need to go to the principal, no papers, no paperwork involved.
No paperwork. No lawyers, no paperwork.
Lawyers, no parents, nothing. Just work it out. Get it out of your system. That was Mr. Hayden. He was a really cool guy, because he told me one day, he says, get it together with a group, Juan, okay? Okay, with a group, okay. And we studied Peru, right? Yeah, we're studying Peru, Peru. And he says, now I want you to write a play and put it to work with this group. What? We'll put a play together, write a play. Okay, now get the material and create characters. But I don't know what a play is, mister. So just work it out, okay? You deal with it, okay? You're going to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to deal with it. So that was Mr. Hayden. So I got into playwriting. That's Mr. Hayden.
That's how you started.
That's how I kind of kicked off on an idea of plays. That was Mr. Hayden. He just put you in the situation, and you had to work it out. Whatever it was, you're going to have to deal with it and solve it by the end of class. You have to fight it out, and you better be done with that fight somewhere during class time and get it out of the way. You do a play, you get it done, and I'm going to come back, and it better be ready. Okay, Mr. Hayden, it's going to be ready, sir. He was a great teacher. I really loved him and all the students.
Were you happy then? Did you feel like you were happy back then?
Happy time, yeah, happy.
Yeah?
Patrick Henry, I was happy. Yeah, I had a couple of bloody noses. I was happy. You're never happy if you have a bloody nose all of a sudden, Let's say this is not a battle bloody nose, it's just a bloody nose, kind of a growing up bloody nose. And I was in the cafeteria. Little sandwich, little bologna sandwich.
Tater tots? Did you have tater tots?
Little tater tots. And then my nose started to bleed. And the guys couldn't handle it, his nose is bleeding. You're in trouble, Juan Felipe. Oh, man, we're going to duke it out right now, because look, your nose is bleeding, man. I said, chill out, man. Chill out. So it was heavy, If you had a bloody nose, it was a fight already. I mean, it goes the other way around, guys. You got it backwards. So it was a happy time, going to school. I love school. Let's go to school.
Can we look at the next one? Let's see. What's this?
That's me and a photo booth. I used to hang out at Greyhound bus depots a lot, because they were my entertainment center, right? Because you could play. There's magazines, there's lockers, there's food, there's apple pie, a la mode, root beer floats, baseball games, and shoe shine.
People to watch.
People to watch.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Yeah, it's going to Tijuana, man. One of these days we'll go to Tijuana. Door number 4, San Francisco Express. 10 minutes. Everybody line up. 10 minutes. San Francisco Express. So, so you get to hear all that. You get excited about it, and then you go to the photo booth too.
Yeah.
So this is me on my serious face. Then I have another face where I really get goofy, but this is my serious face.
Yeah.
And my uncle made my mother invest in a double-breasted suit in Tijuana, which is what I'm wearing here. And that's my that shirt. It's hard to see. It has these kind of beautiful coral colors.
Yeah.
That I bought on at the end of Broadway on the waterfront, where the sailors are kind of grasped by the store, because the store has all kinds of fancy shirts. You're coming off the ship, you want to look really cool, you know. You don't want to wear all your stuff. So they got these Cuban shirts and big puffy sleeves in this store. And because I liked all that kind of clothes, I would go to that kind of civilian store, shirt shop. And so I got that shirt here, and it was kind of fun.
That's where you got your style, right?
Yeah, I'm still wearing it. I wasn't even aware of it. So that's me looking serious in 1960. Yeah. And this is a cool group, you know. I was after the story of my uncle in El Paso. He was in this radio show called El Barco de la Ilusión, the Ship of Illusions. It was a early 30s, 30 through 1940. And the late 20s was a time when radio started to blast out of Juarez. They had the big radio towers, first time ever. So radio was big. It was like the iPhone. It was totally big. And all the young people wanted to be in that radio and do their stuff. They wanted to sing, they wanted to dance, they wanted to do comedy. All the young people, 16 teenagers. And here are 3 of them. And they're part of that El Barco de la Ilusión show that my uncle was in. So I found out about my uncle through their children much later on. I was in Redlands, and she was in her 90s. Cuca Aguirre, right in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
Was in her 90s then.
Wow.
And her son was looking for more information on her, so he could create a birthday, posters for her birthday wall. And he found out that I had talked about my uncle and being in that show somewhere. I mentioned it on Facebook or somewhere. So he said, "Oh, do you have anything about my mother?" I go, "No, I don't know your mom." So then I found out about her, and I visited her in El Paso. And she had a great story to tell, because she's actually one of our first Latina poets, and so is her sister Eva, songwriters, poets, dancers, actors, and comedians. Back then you did all of them in one. You just didn't do one. I'm a poet, dedicate my life to poetry. Especially Shakespeare in the later period. No, you did it all. You were a dancer, actor, comedian, writer, songwriter, poet. So all of them were involved in those things, especially Cuca and especially her sister. And this is Elvira Macias, their cohort and dancers together. So I learned her story. I met up with her. Nice. She was in her early 90s, and I kept in contact with her until she was 99 when she passed away. Nice. Not too long ago. But it was beautiful to meet her, because here I met one of the pioneers of Latina creative expressive art in the 30s in El Paso, Juarez, El Paso, borderlands pioneers in creative writing. And then radio art, radio comedy, and dancers.
Beautiful.
Touring throughout the Southwest.
Amazing.
So I just bumped into amazing artists that I never thought I'd ever meet. Yeah. And I wanted to promote them as much as possible. And we did that at UCR and wrote a play for them, Mr. Hayden's play. And then our students at UCR auditioned, and we told the story of Cuca Aguirre and her sister at UCR, and kind of a musical draft. We did a musical, but it was a draft, but it sounded really great. Wow. But that's who this is.
All right, let's, who's that?
That's my selfie. That's my selfie. Yeah. I got a brownie, my mom's brownie camera right there.
Was this high school?
That's high school, 1964, 10th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
what I was doing.
Very artistic, like Man Ray almost.
Yeah, Man Ray. I love Man Ray.
Man Ray, right?
I was checking out Man Ray and all those guys.
Yeah,
I love all that.
yeah.
Yeah, so this was a really cool project out of UCR, and I asked myself, these women, this family, was from Puebla. They're in Puebla, Mexico, and they're either Totonaca or they're Nahuatl speakers in Puebla. And my friend Dick Keys was giving a workshop in poetry with them. And I said, hey Dick, I got him on Facebook. Let's do a project with UCR creative writers, poets. But and I thought, I said, what's the most recognizable worldwide form of paper art? And for me at the moment, at least on the hemisphere, I said it's papel picado, because you see it everywhere, right? You see it at bars, at restaurants, at fiestas, at birthdays, at quinceañeras, and graduations, folclórico, Dia de la Raza, events, students, universities, houses, that paper art style, papel picado. I said, let's add 4 languages to it. Told the students, let's add English, of course. Let's get Spanish in here. And since we're writing to Totonaca Nahuatl speakers, let's look up some Nahuatl and some Totonaca and insert some of those terms. And then we'll fold it up and send it to Puebla, and we'll see what happens. And so they received them, and they posted them up, and they really liked them, and then they wrote their own. That's what this is.
That's nice.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, we got to do that. Yeah.
This was from that too, right?
This is from that.
Yeah.
Chilti, Xocotli, Xocoti, Arcoiris, Papaloto, which is a mariposa, and it's also a kite. And deja que las estrellas guíen tu camino, let the stars guide your path. Yoyotl, heart, and Yolilitzli. Hey, there it is.
There it is. What,
Life in motion.
Let's talk. Can you talk about that?
Yolilitzli. Hey. Yolilitzli. And I was thinking about, I was reading Martin Buber, and he talked about the sources of Jewish culture and history, and that he said that was extremely important for the survival and continuity of Jewish culture and peoples. And I said, wait a minute, what are our sources? I mean, I admire that. And I said, okay, what are our sources? Then I thought of Cortés. I said, some books got destroyed. Temples got destroyed. People got destroyed. Yeah. So what are our sources? We kind of left that a long time ago, so we don't know much of that, if not any at all. So I said, what are they? And I know that Gloria Anzaldúa and her generation, after many of the Latinas and others, particularly women, began to follow Gloria Anzaldúa's borderlands mestiza thought about Nahuatl-astic deities and the feminine or female or women deities and their real meanings. There are multiple meanings. So she kind of dug into the archaeology and the symbols and rituals of Aztec practices back in time.
Yeah. From a feminist.
From a feminist point of view, feminist, lesbian point of view.
Yeah.
And so that's one attempt to find those sources, one great attempt. And I said, well, are there other ones that kind of have precepts? Do we have precepts? One is, it's good to investigate the deities, it's great to investigate the symbols, it's great to investigate the rituals, but what are the precepts? Are there teachings? Are there key sources where we say, oh, this is a value that I can follow through at this point in my life? Do we have that?
Like a wisdom tradition.
Like a wisdom tradition, even though it's imbued with the materials that Gloria Anzaldúa, I'm pretty sure, kind of came up with. But what are they, in addition to Gloria's work? And Yolilitzli could be one of them. And it stands for life in motion. Life in motion. That everything is always changing. Change is ever present. Life is always moving. It sounds a little thin. It sounds like 2% milk. It sounds a little thin to hang on to, but it's a very big thing. Yeah. Impermanence. Yeah. So if we hang on to one point of view, or we define ourselves very strictly or narrowly in a narrow fashion, then we're going to have a hard time relating to other people.
And
accepting.
That's just one interpretation that you can get out of that.
That's just one.
Yeah,
that's just
that's
one.
a beautiful.
So that's just one. So we were talking about that search, this new search for indigenous teachings that are directly connected to our experience today.
Yeah.
All of us. So that's all of a sudden it appeared right in front of us. And then Yoyotl is the heart, like a yo-yo, Yoyotl. And Miguel León Portilla, in his book Aztec Thought and Culture, which we all were, mesmerized by in the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
Because we had that great moment of, being hardcore nationalists. Yes, this land is my land, and everyone is an Aztec now. That was good, that was fun, that was good. That was fun, that tasted really good, Don't call me Juan anymore. I am Nezahualcoyotl Xochipilli. Okay, that's my new name, Tenochca. That was a good time, it was a good moment. It was a good moment, and it's still alive, as you know.
Yeah.
People are called Xochitl, Cuauhtémoc, Quetzalcoatl. I mean, those names continue. The rebirth and fluorescence of our indigenous identities. This is for all of us. This is not just for Latinos. This is for all of us. We all have looked a little deeper. Women's language, women's terms, new feminist vision. We all are changing our terms. We've all changed our terms. First it was chairman, and then chair, and chairperson, and it just keeps on going. Keeps on going. LGBTQ+ has really created an incredible spectrum of gender identity in the self, multiple self. So anyway, Yoli Litzli, Life in Motion. That's step number one. And Miguel León Portilla has provided a lot of material, and particularly the notion of the heart and the face and the heart. The true artist has a face and heart to see and to relate to our community. If that artist is including the face of the people and the heart of the people, then that person is a true artist. But in a sense, the true artist then is has humanity, believes in humanity, and acts for humanity. And
connection.
It has that connection. So more or less, it's kind of wobbly, it's like soda cracker wobbly, but we're getting. It'd be nice, to find what Martin Buber, to crystallize what Martin Buber talks about in his writings and his philosophy.
I and thou.
I and thou, and his poetry. Right. I think it's a good model. Yeah. It's a good model to rethink and to read up on.
Can I just say that?
Jeez.
What were you going to say?
No, that's it.
I was just going to say the face and the heart. The idea of the face and the heart as an artist. Yeah. You've been living that since you were so young. I mean, that's you. You make art to connect with people.
That's right.
You're not just this artist in a room, isolated and doing your own thing.
With my smoking jacket. That's true. I was thinking about the Chicano movement, and when we talk about our social movements that we all have belonged to at one point or another, or our parents have, or our families have, or we are interested in social movements. I reflected upon the Chicana Latino movement, Latinx movement from the mid-'60s on. I said, it really wasn't about art, even though we did it. And it really wasn't about poetry, although we did that. It really wasn't about theater, even though Mr. Hayden proposed it. It was about giving. It was about kindness. You have to have the act of kindness in a social movement, because you're actually giving to someone. You're giving to your community. You're listening to your community. You're in dialogue with your community. That's the core. It's not follow my, 14-point plan. Step number 1, everybody come to my house with a tribute of free chocolate. It's not that. The core was kindness.
Can I ask you about that? Because there's a lot of anger now, right?
There's a lot of anger,
and some of it's understandable. a lot of it, right?
Yes, it is.
But so how do you reconcile that with what, because I think it's very important, the kindness that you're talking about as part of a movement, or,
Yes, it is.
how do you reconcile that with what do you say to somebody who's angry right now?
Say, hey brother, hey sister. No, you don't say that. Someone who's angry, you listen. You listen. We're not gonna, to react is not going to work out. To react is not going to work out.
Yeah.
So we're just going to listen.
You don't react with anger.
No. I may get a little, one or two hairs may get curly behind my neck, but no, I'm gonna listen. They have a right to express themselves, and there is many reasons, not just one, why they're angry.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Dalai Lama video clips on the Dalai Lama website, which I really like because they're kind of very objective. You would think they're very religious oriented, but they're very objective.
Yeah.
And he was talking about 5 dimensions, to see people in 5 dimensions. So this person is angry, for example. It's not like a spatial thing. It's like this person is angry. I could definitely react to this person's anger. And I could definitely say, this is that person, just one dimension, this person. I don't like this person because this particular person is an angry person. I don't like the politics. And then I would get angry. But no, that's just one thing. The second thing could be, maybe this person has a hard time at home. Something happened. And that's 2, let's invent that. Something happened back home. Number 3, maybe he's like me. He has that other family that he's never seen. And never has seen it by himself or herself. And he kind of longs for family. But has been alone all his life. All her life. And that creates, get a little espinita, you get a little thorn, you have a little thorn going. You got a thorn in your heart. And it hasn't been pulled out. You haven't pulled it out. So that's 3 things now.
Yeah.
And then maybe this person is always bullied, was abused at some point. So that's 4 dimensions. And you got 1 more to go, and then you can really see the whole person, start to see the whole person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of part of it, but it kind of takes time. How many dimensions am I doing now? So it's just to kind of listen.
Yeah.
And
can I ask you? You said to me last night the Dalai Lama had this other advice. When something's bothering you so much. You remember what you said?
But just keep on going. Maybe I'll get it.
It's about a direction you look in.
Oh yeah, that was Shunryu Suzuki.
Oh, Suzuki. Yeah.
I'm totally into Shunryu Suzuki, one of the pioneers in Zen Buddhism in the West, and particularly in the Bay Area, the Tassajara Zen monastery. And he put out a book way back in City Lights days when I used to stroll around, the Haight. I used to stroll around, North Beach with my bell bottoms, corduroy, caramel color stripes,
I think we have a picture. Yeah.
I'm puffing smoke into my nostrils. Isn't that a cool thing to do? Recycling. I didn't want to throw the cigarette away. So reading Shunryu Suzuki's for beginners beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind.
Yeah.
It's based on his lectures at the Zen monastery. It's actually kind of alluded to in that book, but it's really in his biography called The Crooked Cucumber, which I really recommend. It's a lot of fun. Crooked Cucumber.
Such a great title,
isn't it? Because his own master said, "You're a crooked cucumber," because he didn't do stuff right, and he was like relaxed, and he didn't have it together. You crooked cucumber.
It's amazing because he's considered the kind of founder of the whole Western Buddhism. Right?
He is.
But he's a crooked cucumber.
Yeah, he was a crooked cucumber. So we're all crooked cucumbers at one point or another. Yeah. So he's talking about when we get so involved with the world, like right now. I'm a CNN total. I'm gone. CNN forever. I got a tattoo on my back. when I if I go into I go to Soledad Correctional Facility, I'm gonna show the guys, hey, CNN, CNN. Okay, okay, Juan, whatever you like, whatever you want. I used to teach at Soledad, correctional facility, and poetry the hard way.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So he says, just look away. Because we start looking at what's going on, and there's so much crap going on that we start getting angry, angry, and we go to sleep and we're thinking about it all, and we're saying stuff. I'm talking to Trump, and it's time to go to sleep. Oh yeah, what do you mean? You gotta be kidding, You're not gonna win. There's no way, no way, man. But you better go to sleep. It's good to go to sleep. So we need to look away,
Look
Just
away.
Turn off that TV.
To have some rest.
Put on some Albert King. Have some rest. Yeah.
Put on some what?
Albert King.
Albert King.
Yeah. So we get too involved. Such a visual society.
Yeah.
Visual mediums. Always connected.
We're always looking.
My 3-year-old. My granddaughter. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're always connected. So look away. We got to put the phone down, TV down. When we walk around, don't get involved. Look away.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Yeah. So, Juan Felipe, we look away
Yes, we do.
from that,
Yes.
and then we take a walk. What do we look at?
We're taking a walk?
What do we start looking at?
Well, check out the trees a little bit. Just don't
Yeah.
run into them.
Don't run into them?
Check out the trees.
Yeah.
I took a little walk after we hung out this morning.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was really
good.
good. I don't know if I brought one of those loquats. I was grabbing some of those raspberries or little loquats. I used to get them in second grade. I used to go as I was walking to elementary school. And they're really sour and really cool.
Yeah.
So I found them. So the loquats, the textures of the tree, touch the tree a little bit. Why not? Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Put out your arm. You have an arm. You can do it. Took millions of years to develop arms. Billions of back in the what was it? The Devonian. When we crawled out of the water. It took a long time to develop arms, man. So you got to use them. Everything, the thumb, everything,
Yeah. Do you look at the tops of the trees? Do you ever look at the tops of the tree?
I do, because it's like it's going like this, It's like a total surrender.
Yeah.
Total surrender. Total surrender.
That's amazing.
But you have a little peyote going with you. you better look away again.
Speaking of which, can you just quickly tell them about when Castaneda came to your class?
Oh, Carlos Castañeda.
Do they know who
You guys remember a little bit? Carlos Castañeda, a little bit? The teachings of Don Juan and mushrooms and initiations in Sonora, and under the tutelage of a shaman, Don Juan, who escorts him into the world of plants, hallucinogenic plants, and how he travels through time and in space, ingesting those materials as he learns the teachings of Don Juan, the shaman, in Sonora.
And these books were as important as Suzuki or anything else. I mean, they were culture changing, right?
Yeah, they were culture changing.
Yeah.
Everybody was reading Carlos Castañeda. Yeah, it's like even the hard dudes. Hey, Juan, check this out, carnal. The teachings of Don Juan, carnal. Okay, settle down. You're not gonna go to Anthro 101. Check this out right now, because there's some heavy learning, carnal. But disappearing. Could cross the border like that. So Carlos Castañeda was the grad student of Clement Megan, who was the archaeology teacher at UCLA. And I was taking my archaeology requirement, which was really cool. Draw stones, and it was a really cool class. And so Carlos would come and visit Clement to show him his paper on what's happening in Sonora, which would ultimately comprise the following book and all those things. So then Clement, Mr. Megan, Professor Megan, said, well, students, we have a guest today. And okay. And it's Carlos Castañeda. Come into our classroom right now. come on in, Carlos. So then Carlos walked on in, and he's standing behind the podium. He walks in with a suit, his hair parted over here, and like Ozzie and Harriet days, and the way I used to part it. It's kind of a funny thing, Got a little bun over here, and this goes down. And then he's standing behind the podium, Carlos Castañeda. Everybody was talking about Carlos Castañeda. And he's kind of serious guy, kind of a medium tone, upper tenor tone. And he says, well, I am here, standing here, behind this podium. That made me laugh. Out of convenience. Because I could easily transport myself through this podium and float into you. Okay, Mr. Castañeda, that's great. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was good. It's good, man. Right. Just transport,
So we just have because we're running out of time. But just to finish our walk, we're gonna finish our walk. How do we walk into a museum like this?
Kind of open.
Yeah.
Openness, with excitement, wonder, experiment, embracing, and just float in, like Castañeda said. Just float in. Float in.
As a convenience.
Yeah, float in. Expectations, obligations, they're going to get in our way.
Yeah.
Just float in. Because remember, YOLO Leadsly, everything's always in motion. So what we expect is not going to happen. It's going to be something new, unexpected. You will never be able to contact unknown realities if we plant before them walls of expectation and fantasy. And we get rid of that, and bang, we say, "Hi, Carlos." So that's how you walk in, right? Like we were talking about art galleries.
Yeah. We're kind of talking about how we have so much joy now when we go to a museum or
We do.
to look at paintings or anything, videos. That it makes us happy.
Makes me happy. We're talking about the happiness.
Yeah.
We were talking about the happiness of walking through art museums, and they're so cool.
Yeah.
Whether they're the photographs of Carlos Bulosan in Seattle. They had a whole show on Carlos Bulosan and the Native American culture in that area, which is rich.
Amazing.
And then, in San Francisco, photographs that were taken during, I forgot what year, early 90s. A great show. And New York, we talked about that. Matisse, the Matisse show. And there I go to the Matisse show, get there in a taxi. Cost me $1 million, and I got there, and then I went in. There were 3,000 people in there, so I could barely get in my arm to buy a book and throw the dollars over somebody's head. And then I got back in a taxi and went back where I was.
Yeah.
But they're very exciting.
Yeah.
The sculptures of Matisse are incredible.
Yeah.
He has a nude sculpture, a woman nude, but it's a steel, a bronze, steel, one of those two. And just the proportions are incredible. Yeah. The proportions, how he worked on this particular sculpture for 10 years.
Yeah, and then there's
more.
And then there's you in 1970, and you're in Mexico City, and you come across the thing, the leaning stone, right?
Yeah, the leaning stone. Yeah. I was bopping around Mexico City in 1978 with Francisco Alarcón. And we were bopping around there, and all of a sudden we walked in a particular area, I don't know where it was, and this big old archaeological round disc made out of stone is leaning against the wall. And it has to be an Aztec figure. And what on earth is this? It was an image of a woman or female dismembered in pieces. And we didn't know it was Coyolxauhqui, the moon deity, dismembered by her brother Huitzilopochtli, the war deity or something related to that. And then to further back, you could see the archaeologist digging out whatever else was in that particular arena. That they had discovered this amazing disc that then many it became quite quite a interesting monument and provided a number of symbols for particularly women in the United States to unlock its meanings. And then the term Koyoshalki started to emerge in the literature and writings and critical papers of students on campus and off campus, and tattoos and the whole thing, and murals and books. Koyoshalki. You've heard of Koyoshalki? Yeah, you've heard of Koyoshalki.
Yeah.
And so we ran into the stone. Koyoxua AUQUI. I don't know if I can do it in one run.
Yeah.
Koyoshalki, yeah.
But it's just, I mean,
I ran right into it.
the amazing thing about
Bumped into it, yeah.
cities are always being built up and changing. There are these palimpsests where everything's being erased, right?
Right.
But then in that situation, the original thing is underneath. Right?
The original thing is
coming
underneath.
up, and it's still there.
It's still there. Now that you say it, that's a good question for us, because what is still here for us?
Yeah.
It's all the cement, all the shops, all the condos, and all on and on and on and on, on and on and on. So we can't get to the earth. There's nothing we can't unless you break the cement and crack it open and keep on digging and open it up, so we can actually see it in a very big dimension.
But
then we would feel the feeling.
Yeah, but that's a metaphor for just how to be in the world.
How to be in the
for
world.
yourself right now, right?
Yes.
Just cracking it open.
Cracking the
through the
cement
concrete.
open.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because we're used to the cement.
Yeah, we are.
We're used to the cement.
We're cemented in.
We're cemented in the cement.
Got to get out.
Gotta get out. And
Yeah.
it's hard to do.
Can we talk to some of the
let's
people?
talk to the people.
Yeah. Thank you, Juan Felipe.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody want to kind of ask Juan Felipe a question and have a conversation with?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the part that made it really close to that when you said brother, and it gets me kind of emotional because I've got 6 kids and 5 mothers, and 35 years ago I went looking for 2 of my children
Yeah.
from different mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I first started was they're sisters and brothers. They're not step. A step is negative. Step is negative. I don't know where the word step comes from. I have a feeling, but I don't want to talk about it. But amongst us, we're all sisters and we're brothers. And so to this day, I mean, my youngest one is 36. My oldest one is 55. And they're all sisters and brothers. And all my grandkids, they also communicate.
That's good.
And so,
That's good. It heals the heart.
yeah, so
Yes.
that got me when you said that.
Yeah, it was a big division all my life until 2010.
Yeah, so there were a couple of other things, but that one there was,
Well,
Someone
thank
else-
you.
Someone else
Thanks
have
for
a question?
talking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, over here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to build on the concept of things continuing to change,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
just as elongated families continue to change.
That's right.
And I'd like to hear more about your changing, just on the books that are out here for sale.
Uh-huh.
2 different genre, and now something else in the works.
Yeah.
So how did your career and the way that you express yourself get on this line of change?
It comes from my mother, who began to teach me Spanish from a secondhand segunda book she found on how to teach Spanish, a primer from the late 1800s. So she got me involved with reading, very early age, and saying out the alphabet in Spanish out loud as we were walking on the street. Yeah. X, X, Y, 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 Z, Zeta. So letters and words and images are what those, like the ABCs when they're told with images. A is for angry. A is for apple, things like that. And back there it was, back there we had the CH still. CH was still a letter, the CH. So it was CH for chinela. Everybody say chinela.
Chinela.
And chinela is in English a sandal. Sandal. Chinelas. Oh, Jeffrey? Yes, Edwina? I can't find my chinelas. So the CH, the chinela, and then X is xylophone. And you know what a xylophone is? A xylophone. So I learned that with the images in those early primers from the late 1800s that my mother found at our Macy's back then, called La Segunda, the secondhand store. And always moving, always looking, always seeing new landscapes, visual, and all the stories my mother always talked about, and all the photographs that she would point to in her album that she put together, because she inherited the album of all the photographs that her mother had, because all the children and the family sent their photographs to their mom, which was my grandmother, and then she gave them to my mother, and then she gave them to me. And this old Woolworths or Crest or 5 and dime store album with a red cover and black felt paper where you pop in the brownie photos. And there were other photos that went back to the late 1800s of my grandparents. On and on and on and on to around the early 60s where you see me in my selfie. And it kind of stops right there. So that was, what was I talking about? Where were we going? So the experiment. So then images and sounds and landscapes and words were primary for me, and sayings and riddles and stories and guitar. And so I picked up the guitar in high school. So and then the late 60s were a time of a lot of experimentation. So I got into books. My friends talked about it. Were a little older than me. Bueno, vamos a leer lo de Jean-Paul Sartre. We're going to read a little bit of Jean-Paul Sartre and Jean Cocteau. And I go, who's Jean-Paul Sartre? And who's Cocteau? So then I would go look for them. And then I fell in love with the painters of that time and the writers of that time, Jean Cocteau and Antonin Artaud, talking about theater of the double. I got into experimental theater. I really liked it. Man Ray, the photographs, I really liked them. And I began to just love all this stuff. And like you said, we feel happy when we see art. So I felt very happy. Mm-hmm. And everything was experimental. The installations, the montages, the collages, the photographs, the theater. Imagine popping out of a box with tomato sauce all over you. That was the theater from New York, Café La Mama, and also the Open Theater. Yeah. So I saw the Open Theater, the Café La Mama, the Rudy Perez Dance Ballet at UCLA, and they were dancing in jeans and hard hats. I go, oh, that's so cool, dancing ballet in jeans and hard hats. Oh, I got to do that. I just got to do it, Which I actually did. I took a ballet class. Forget about it.
You too?
Yeah,
I did that at UCLA.
Leotards and the whole thing. Oh, man.
I had other reasons. So.
Purple.
Yeah.
You did have other reasons. What was your reason?
I'm not gonna say.
Other reasons. Oh, yeah. Okay. Like it's like yoga, and so I wanted to do it all. I wanted to do that thing. When you're excited about that, you want to do that thing. You see somebody dance, remember in high school? Oh man, look at Jimmy, he's really dancing, he knows how to do the mashed potatoes. I wish I knew how to do the mashed potatoes, God. So I would study. Basically a dance party was a study hall, because I would just stand by the wall and study the moves, because I was too afraid to go dance and do the mashed potatoes, whatever it was, the hully gully, the jerk, whatever it was, the dog, the filly, whatever it was. But then, I learned, do the little thing. And so I loved experimentation. Absolutely loved to experiment. Drawing on photographs, cardboard. I was going to bring some cardboard. I forgot to bring it. I write on cardboard now. I find cardboard and people say, Juan Felipe, come on. Go back to that pretty stuff. This is terrible. What are you doing? Going around the city picking up cardboard. Well, that's not all. You got to wet it. You got to wet it, peel it, let it curl up, dry it, and then spill ink on it, and then use it, and then write on it, and stack it up, and it's like a big giant book, or spread it out. It's like a mural. And there's language going all across it. Use some Japanese bamboo pens, and use them, and spill the ink on them, and it's pure black ink. India ink is pure black. It's never going to get gray. So it's interesting. So I love all that. I just absolutely love change styles, right? Writing styles. In 8th grade, Mr. Warner said, "Students, I want you to write sentences where the sentences are not typical sentence. Like, I went to town and I enjoyed an ice cream. Do not do that. Start with anything else in that sentence, and then make it to the end of that sentence. But move stuff around. And if I don't see that kind of book report come in, you're in major trouble." So
That was a good teacher.
so he had us mix. So I turned the report in, and then the day came when he called people on. "Well, I must say, students, that only one of you managed to follow the careful instructions I gave you. It's life or death." And that student happens to be John Herrera. I go, "Hey!" No, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But it was about messing with the words and the arrangement of words. But that was the only time it happened. So don't get too carried away. It was the arrangement of words, and I didn't know about that. And it was very useful for me.
You're still doing it.
I'm still doing it. So I still do it because it's a lot of fun. There's no parentheses next to the sentence you're writing that says, "There's only one way to write it, Juan. You better not mess this sentence." I haven't seen that parentheses anywhere, right? When you're about to write, there's no preamble that says, "Listen, Jason, you better do this the right way, okay? You will be destroyed if you don't." There's nothing that says that. So then you do it whatever way you want. And then the vocabulary. My mother used to read the Reader's Digest. Remember the Reader's Digest? If you're over 110 years old, you would know what that is. Like I am, the Reader's Digest.
Yeah.
And it had a word power section.
Yeah.
Word power.
Yeah.
Hey. Word power. Because back in those days, the magazines all had weightlifting, little weightlifting ad. Be a powerful weightlifter. Lift 1,000 pounds in 2 weeks. Just send $1.25 to Johnny Wilder at P.O. Box 4492 in West Liberty, Iowa. I used to hang out, and I don't know. I was interested in that, but it was going to take a lot of work. So. But word power.
Word power. You're talking about your mom reading.
So then I get to the word because I was kind of body power. Yeah. But I said word power. What is that? Sounds like I could do that. I could give it a shot. Go to school all word powered out. And so I looked it up, and there was this particular word, and I'm gonna share it with you, and you're gonna find out. Mr. Hayden, there's a couple of students here in the back. They're having a Donnybrook. A Donnybrook. Hey. But nobody uses Donnybrook. It's the only problem. And Mrs. Sampson, I've noticed that you have a proclivity in assigning a lot of choir work. What did you say? So even at Stanford, because you're reading stuff, and there's about at least 5 to 10 words that I didn't know at all. Yeah. And so I went back to look them up. Proclivity with paroxysm. Paroxysm. How was that talk, that lecture that you went to? Oh, Everyone had a paroxysm. It was lovely. Yeah? So language, language, vocabulary, curiosity, experimentation. And in that book, Jabberwocking, I got a big shovel of tasty language. I use a lot of tasty language and tactile language in that Jabberwocking book. I use blue cheesy. It's really blue cheesy, So you can smell it, you can see it. So I really packed the images and the tactile and olfactory terms. And that oeuvre. So I like that. You got to start eating it and feeling the words. You got to feel the words emotionally. You got to taste them. You got to enjoy them. Because if they're just words, then that's not enough. You got to really imbibe them and taste them and smear them on your face and feel them. You got to feel them.
And hear the music.
You got to hear the music. You got to hear the music and feel it. You want to get into the writing, you got to feel it. You got to have the feeling. And what's the matter when you haven't been writing a long time? I don't feel it, man. Well, my grandchildren. Dominic, I want you to be nice to AJ, because you're always fighting him, Dominic. No, I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it, But you both have hearts. You both have a heart. Then AJ said about Dominic, he has a dead heart. Okay, I'll give up. Good. Enjoy,
Yeah. Will you sign books for people outside?
We'll sign some books. Yeah.
Okay, let's go do that. Thank you, Juan Felipe.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you.